genetically embedded, hardwired way of making decisions, which means we instinctively make our decisions from the context or perspective of a need, a desire, or to solve a problem. And we need to adjust that. So in holistic management, we address our needs, desires, or problems from a holistic context, so from the perspective of the whole that those things exist within and that our decisions will impact. Another of the insights of holistic management, besides the decision-making side, is that the whole Earth's ecosystem can be graded on a scale of brittleness, from non-brittle to very brittle environments. So non-brittle is where you have year-round humidity, constant humidity, and then that scale goes all the way up to very brittle, which is areas of the planet that experience short rainy seasons followed by long dry seasons, arid seasons. And we're obviously, all this filming that I'm doing is in a very brittle environment. And what holistic management teaches people is that these, at either end of this scale, those two types of environment will respond very differently to the same influences. So when we rest land in a non-brittle environment, in a humid environment, it will recover. But as I'm about to show you in a video, when you rest land in very brittle environments like this one, we are killing the land, because these areas developed with huge herds of animals that were kept bunched together and on the move by pack hunting predators. So I'll do a little bit of an explanation of that in a minute. I'm just doing this to show that this is an area of very advanced desertification. But if you look at it that way, it doesn't look too bad, does it? It looks like there's lots of grass. Now, what I've done is I'm standing on a part that's a bit of a fire break, so they've burnt it, and I'll just show you how much space there is between grass plants, how much bare ground there is between plants. And without the correct timing and movement of herding animals, these places, the plants die every year, and we get more and more space between plants, less and less diversity, less species. So I'm gonna now, so you can see the part that's not burnt. Looks like there's a bit of grass, doesn't there? Now have a look where I'm standing. This is the distance between grass plants. So I'm gonna walk back. Look. Okay, I'm gonna just show the distance between plants here. It's probably, well, if I put my foot in there, it's more than a foot space. I can just see less and less and less plants, more and more gaps between them. So every year some of these plants die, and I'll show you that on the other side of the road quickly. And this is not far off being a desert, as you can see. So look at this on the other side of the road. Still looks like there's quite a bit of grass, doesn't there? Well, it's exactly the same story in here, and you can see here, this is these grey plants. This is because the plant, I'm trying to get my shadow out of the way. These grass plants have died. This is oxidation. So yeah, this is horrific oxidation of plants. So those plants have died, because what happens if we don't have the periodic trampling of animals to get this grass flat and down and fertilized and forming a protective mulch over the soil, we have the sunlight can't reach the growth points when the grass stems stay up, and so it turns to chemical oxidation and dies. And this is why we in brittle environments, grass plants die from resting. So you can just see it's the same story with the burnt patch, except it just is harder to see. Look how much spacing is between these plants. It's huge. Here's one plant that's died. None of it's alive in here. It's all grey, oxidized, unhealthy, dead matter. There you can see the next plant again, just spaces. I mean, there's a whole bare patch in here. And then if we clear the leaves off the soil, look, I cannot even dig in with my finger, even a couple of millimeters. And that hard capped surface of the soil means our rainfall is not effective. So as soon as the rain, look at all this dead grass, as soon as the rain falls on this surface, it's going to be exporting it straight down the hill. The soil, the topsoil is going to go. What's remaining of the loose topsoil, which isn't much, and that's what goes and causes flash floods and silts up our rivers. And our rainfall cannot penetrate that earth. But if our water cycle is non-effective, so if our rain can't sink in and be absorbed by plant roots and microorganisms and go under the ground, it's the same with the mineral cycle. So we have an amazing amount of microorganisms and things under the soil that get energy from the sun indirectly. So it's passed down through decaying matter and whatever. And if the soil surface is hard, not only can water not penetrate, but minerals. Your mineral cycle is not healthy, and the soil can't breathe, basically. So you can't get carbon cycling through the soil. You can't get oxygen, nitrogen. Nothing can cycle. So this is what I'm talking about when we need. Imagine a tiny little, thousands and thousands of hooves of tiny little impala with their tiny sharp hooves that break up that initial little, look, I can't even break this at all. And that's what animals' hooves are for. So they come across in their thousands, and their tiny little hooves will break that up. Then you imagine all the different shape of hooves. So you have impala coming through, starting to break the soil surface a little. Imagine like that, thousands of little impala. See, already starting to break. And then you have, after you have impala, you have a kudu, which has a waterbuck, like a different shaped hoof, which are like their toes are not as sharp at the front, but they also splay out when they walk like little impalas, so it just pushes the soil a little bit, aerating it. And then to buffalo, which have a big round hoof like a cow, so they'll break the soil in a different way and probably at a different level. And then you've got, remember, at the same time they should be trampling and flattening and fertilizing grass plants. So you've got all the different shaped hooves coming through. What about an elephant with its huge flat feet that will flatten the big hard grass stems down over the soil and form this, should be a huge, thick, protected, fertilized mulch. And then the microorganisms that get activated by the moisture in the ruminant's stomach, so they go through the animal's stomachs, and then they can biologically break down all this beautiful mulch ready to catch rain. So you should have a big 10 centimeter or 15 centimeter mulch on soft aerated soil. And it's not just the hooves, but it's the mouths of the animals. So like a tiny impala will nibble tiny little delicate grass stems, and then all the way up to the bigger animals and elephants that will pull up with their trunk and eat the bigger, thicker grasses. So nature really is incredible, and this land is just dying because we don't have that perfect symbiotic relationship between herding animals and these plants. So they're all just dying. And then what happens is, because what we did was wipe out wild herds and start burning, is we now burn these grasslands to clear them after the rainy season when the grass is long, which also kills them. So we need to bring back our animals. But what happens with burning is we have more and more fire-dependent grasses and wind-dependent grasses, and we've lost a lot of the animal-dependent grasses. So the fire-dependent grasses have far less nutrients for animals, so animal-dependent grasses are far more protein-dense, which is the reason, so elephants are primarily grazers, they eat grass, and so what they've done is turn to woody vegetation because they don't have the amount of proteins and nutrition they need in grass, and that's why they put pressure on trees that are protein dense, and try and get their nutrition from there. So it's all about the timing and movement of animals, so don't let anybody tell you it's the animals, it's our management of the animals. We cause animals to behave unnaturally, which knocks onto everything else in the ecosystem, and it's all caused by our management. So